right, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Craig Heath. I'm superintendent here of Mentor Schools. Appreciate you guys coming out tonight to hear the little talk about school safety, which will be a very quick overview. That was the original topic that we had for tonight, but we've kind of shifted gears a little bit here in January and February with some board conversations that we've had around student discipline and student behavior, and want to have a little bit more in-depth conversation about that here this evening. So I thank you again for being here. I know we got a lot of questions that came in online, so we tried to tailor the presentation here tonight around some of those topics. We'll answer some of those questions. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of time here at the end to kind of open it up a little bit for some Q&A as well. But we'll see how we get through all of this, because with all those questions, there's a lot of content that we tossed into our presentation here this evening. So again, thank you for being here. I've already done that. That was about school transportation last time. Yeah, we talked about transportation last time. It was a really good presentation. If you go online, it's the recording is there. It'll be great. Thank you. First topic here tonight, quickly we'll touch on some school safety pieces to the puzzle, and a couple of questions that have been coming in just to kind of work through some of this. So what school safety issues has the district been working on since the approval of the framework for the future in August? As you'll recall, there were some school safety pieces to the puzzle in there, so we thought we would just kind of go through those here quickly tonight. First off, we have the school safety officer contract. A couple of updates with that for everybody to hear. We actually approved that as a Board of Education here back in February's meeting. We have given that to City Council at this point. They are reviewing that contract right now. We thought we had it all taken care of, and then you know how attorneys are. They had to put their eyes on it too, so there are a couple things they're working through with their legal team right now. But I did have a conversation with Mr. Filippiak here late last week, and he assured me that they are going to be getting that on the agenda as soon as humanly possible and get that approved. We do have a plan in place to get some school safety officers here in our middle schools by the end of this school year as a starting point. So as soon as that contract is approved by the city, we're going to get those jobs posted and do some interviewing and hiring here ASAP to try and get those in place here before the end of this school year. We also will bring in 2 at the elementary level for next school year as well. So that will be coming here in August. Again, we'll probably post those later on in May, get those hired in June. That way all 4 of those officers can go through the training for school safety officers over the summer and have that ready to roll in August. School safety grants, we continue to look at as many different school safety grants as we can. Again, a lot of that is coming out of the failure of the PI levy that we had put on back in November of 23, I believe. And we had a lot of capital improvement projects associated with that PI levy, and we haven't been able to fulfill those requirements that we're hoping to have in our buildings. So we are continuing to apply for those. We have a couple out there that we're waiting on final approvals from right now. And then one additional thing that we done, and just to show you, one of the things when we were looking at some of our school safety pieces and looking at some of the signage that we currently have, we wanted to make sure that we got some things updated, maybe make them a little bit bigger, because if you go into our buildings, oftentimes you'll see like a little sticker that's on the door and it will have all of this language on there. not very difficult to see or read, or sometimes it just kind of blends in. So we have a couple of different things that we've undertaken. There are some required signage that we need. Here's one, for example. Hi, come on in. This is the one for the notice on firearms and weapons not being allowed. Very simple, but a little bit bigger than what we currently have. Next one is, this one will actually be on the inside of the door facing the students and teachers. This is one that just basically says, stop, do not let any visitors in through this entrance. All visitors must report to the main office. So we have some of these on some doors around the district, but nothing quite as substantial as this. So these will be going up in all of our buildings here relatively soon as well. And then the final piece, and wherever retired Fire Chief Searles is right now, this was his little request for many, many years, and we finally got this done. But this is a sign that's going to be posted on the exterior of our buildings where we have all of the key card entrances, so that when our safety forces come for any sort of emergency, they have the key cards that they can access our buildings. However, when we've gone through some of our full-scale drills here, especially at the high school that has so many different entrances, not every entrance has a key card access to it. So these are going to be posted. It's reflective in nature too, so in the evenings, if the fire department or the police department just flashes the flashlight on here, they'll be able to see which entrances have those key card entrances. So those will be going up here very soon as well. Again, Chief Searles was on us for years on that, and we finally got it done. So looking forward to getting those things posted here soon. So those are a couple of the key safety upgrades that we're working on right now. A couple of other questions that kind of came in around this safety topic. How can we make school parking lots safer during student pickup and drop-off? It's a great question. And there are some comments that were made in the questions around this as well, just cars pulling in and out of the parking lot, getting stuck in different lanes, blocking traffic, kids walking everywhere. No clear-cut crosswalks where no vehicles will be driving across, those sorts of things. The basic answer is that we're constantly looking at this. So much so that we actually had some more conversations around Orchard Hollow here, again, probably 2 weeks ago, as we're looking at our arrival and dismissal procedures. It's a never-ending battle. Obviously, parking lots are a little bit crazy in the morning and in the afternoon, but in recent years, we've done a lot of work over at Hopkins Elementary School. If you've ever seen the arrival and dismissal process over there, they literally have 3 loops of cars now, and each loop goes through and they pull out, then the next loop is allowed to enter so that we avoid some of that crisscrossing going on. We don't have that same type of process in every school yet, but we are continuing to look at that. Orchard Hollow is another one that, as I mentioned, we just talked about here again in the last couple of weeks. When I remember one of my transition days with Mr. Porter when I first stepped in, he said, just as a heads up, the Orchard Hollow dismissal and arrival pieces are a little bit of a mess. He says, we've tried a bunch of different options. The HOA over there is not real happy with us. So you may have to kind of work on that sooner rather than later. We solved a couple of issues here as a starting point, but it's created a couple of other issues for us as well. We've kind of got some of the stuff taken care of in the neighborhood, but now we've got some issues right within the parking lot itself. They're working on some similar types of things that we implemented over at Hopkins with the different loops in the parking lot itself. Next year, If you are not aware, we are actually moving that building to one of the early schools. So it will be aligned with the start and dismissal times of Fairfax and Bellflower. So it's a little bit earlier in the morning, which I think will help alleviate some of the traffic that we have issues with on Hendricks Road. But we are looking at that arrival and dismissal process again for that particular building, just to make sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row there. Some of the questions that we got, with the crisscrossing of students and those sorts of things are things that we are actually looking at there as well. Shore Middle School actually had a couple of things updated here this summer with their parking lot. Got everything repaved over there, started with some of the painting of the lines. I think we're still working through some of the issues there, and I believe, if I remember the question correctly, that was one of the areas that Shore in the high school. So Shore is one that we'll definitely be taking a closer look at. The high school obviously is an animal in and of itself. We got several parking lots. We've got student drivers coming in as well. We've got students parking out at the stadium now too, and then walking basically from the stadium all the way down the sidewalks here. So we do have students going everywhere. The one thing that we're trying to get resolved as well at the high school is kind of where the buses get lined up in the morning and the afternoon, and how we might be able to streamline that a little bit better so that we don't have kids walking everywhere. I know one of the, with the question, we also got, and I'm not sure if you're here tonight, but somebody drew some schematics for us with a bunch of arrows. So if you are here and you want to talk about that at the end, obviously we love suggestions, and we take a look at every idea that comes across our plate with our parking lots to try and get those things resolved. So that will be something that we're going to take a close look at here too. How can we better contribute to students' wellness and success at school? And then a couple of different things with this. Are there any phone bans in place? Very timely question. And then what are the district's policies on recess, time allotted for play, looking at lunch and recess combinations there, and recess used as a punishment for behavior. So let's see if we can go through some of this. First of all, what can we do for the overall question? And I think we need to be as supportive as possible for our students. What are their needs? Social, emotional, academic, whatever it is, we need to make sure that we're trying to meet those needs. We obviously have school counselors at our high school. We have mental health services with outside providers that are available at each of our buildings now. We are currently using Crossroads for K through 8, and this year we made a transition to Signature Health for our high school. Part of the reason for that, kind of twofold. Number one, we were getting a lot of turnover in our outside service providers from a counseling standpoint. Just counselors leaving, going different places, just not able to maintain that consistent staff, especially at our middle schools and high schools. So this year we made that shift to Signature Health at the high school. Number one, to make sure that we had consistent staff the entire year, and that has actually come to fruition, so that's working out well. The other reason that we made that shift is we wanted to make sure that our students had some continuation of service as they graduate high school as well. Crossroads currently, when those students graduate high school, those students are done. So what happens now with Signature Health, they can maintain that counseling relationship with Signature Health beyond high school, which hopefully helps them out as they're making that transition into the next phase of their life too. So I think just overall, as an answer to that question, those are a couple of things that we want to continue to look at. Part of our strategic plan with the framework for the future was to do an audit of our mental health services. We are currently in the process of doing that, and we're looking at some recommendations potentially here for Combination of things, maybe potentially switching Signature Health at our middle school level as well to help that transition, especially as students are going through the adolescent time frame. That way they can continue on with some counseling services with that same organization, grades 6 through 12. The other thing I think that is an important thing for us too is just making sure that we can expand on those services that are needed. I know Tricia and I had a lot of conversations here a little bit earlier today too, where a lot of these organizations on the outside right now, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 5 months as far as the wait time to get in to see somebody. They might be able to get you in and do an evaluation and maybe some diagnoses pretty early on, but it's going to be like 2 to 3 months for students, maybe 5 to 6 months for adults to be able to get in and actually talk to someone. So we're looking at what is it that we can do here within the school buildings that will allow us to have those services available to our students at the ready. To answer the other two questions there with this, the cell phone policy, we actually updated here at the beginning of this, well, it was the end of last school year and into this school year. A couple of things with that now, K through 8, students are not allowed to have cell phones from the beginning of school to the end of the school day. So throughout the school day, they have no phones. At the high school level, it's called no cell bell to bell. So during the classroom time, they are not to have their cell phones out with them. They should be in their bags or put away. They are permitted to use those during lunch and study hall times when they have their little breaks during the day. That's something, again, that was instituted here this year and been kind of a statewide push as well. So that's one adjustment, again, that we're trying to make here within our school day, just to make it as tech-free from a cell phone standpoint as we can. Recess time, very interesting because we got a couple questions around that. First of all, obviously recess we have available K through 5 in our buildings. It's about 20 minutes on a regular school day is scheduled for recess. The recess time is normally butted up to lunch as well. In 6 of our 7 elementary schools, the recess time is first and then they go to lunch. There's one elementary school where half of the school has lunch first, then recess. The other half does recess, then lunch. So there are 3 grade levels in the entire district where they actually do lunch before they go out to recess. So I'm sure the number of pukers that we have is a little bit increased in those grade levels at that building, but again, something that we will continue to look at. We do not currently have recess at the middle schools, and I know in our PTA president's meeting here recently, we were asked that question and said, why can't we reinstitute recess at the middle schools? Because they're talking a lot about play, and yeah, very interesting concept. We hadn't considered that in quite some time. Part of it is because we do have physical education. At the elementary levels, it's once a week for our kids. At the middle school level, it's at each of the grade levels, at least for a portion of their year. So that would be a 45 minute class period with physical education for them. At the high school level, we have a couple of classes that they have requirements for graduation that they need to take, and then there are some conditioning classes as well. Again, we do not currently have recess at the high school, although I'm sure that would be very interesting to see. Yeah, we'll just leave it there. So those are some of the student safety things that came through. I think what we'll do here maybe at the beginning of next school year with our first Cardinal Café is maybe revisit the school safety component, because we were going to devote some time to that. What we originally had thought of with the school safety piece to the puzzle was actually bringing in our fire chief, our police chief, and our city manager to kind of co-present with us, since we do so much together with them. And I think that's a direction that we'll head here at the beginning of next year, just to kind of revisit that as well. Question?
Are you equating the safety officers to the resource officers?
Yeah, so it's a slightly different model. So the school resource officer, we have one officially in our district, and he's at the high school. We have some off-duty officers that are serving like 4-hour shifts at our different buildings, and those are active duty officers that are just taking extra shifts. What we're looking to do with these school safety officers, because we have quite a few Mentor police officers right now that are close to retirement or have recently retired, and what we're looking to do is use them as a school safety officer. It's not quite the same level as a school resource officer would be, but they would basically be doing the same type of job. So we would have one officer at our middle school that would be there all day, every day, and it would be that same consistent person so that they can start to develop the relationships with our kids and our staff members there. So that's the idea and the concept right now. So we'll get the middle schools done, we'll get 2 elementaries next year, 2 the year after that, 2 the year after that, and we'll have everybody covered. We are still using Mentor on the Lake police officers for Lake Elementary School. They've jumped on board right away and are doing a great job. They're filling those shifts every single day over there now. So it's been awesome to have them there. So at some point here in about 2-3 years, we will have every building covered, is the goal. Yes?
Yes, sir. With that being said, are you saying that they're going to monitor the hallways?
So a couple of things that they do for us. Number one, they do monitor hallways.
It's not happening right now.
No, probably not at all of our buildings, no.
Especially for the high school.
Yeah, so we've got, yeah, because oftentimes especially during the middle part of the day when we have lunch, those resource officers are down in the cafeteria area to monitor what's going on down there. But our hope, and what we see in our off-duty officers, they're walking the halls, basically checking doors, making sure things are locked. One of the other things that we want to make sure that those officers are doing as well is getting into classrooms, talking to kids. You know, there are law enforcement pieces that they can talk about. We're actually working on our criminal justice career pathway right now as well, that we hope to kind of build that a little bit and maybe get some of those officers to work with our kids in that program as they move forward too. Other questions on school safety before we move to behavior? Yes?
A quick question. Has there been discussion about the fact that middle school and high schoolers can carry book bags all day, unchecked with whatever they can shove in there?
Yeah, there have been conversations about that. It's very difficult for our students now to navigate the day just kind of carrying their books without the book bag. It's very interesting now. Most kids don't even use a locker anymore. They just carry whatever they have the entire day. So we haven't gotten to the point where we would, kind of pull the plug on the book bags yet. In a couple of previous districts, we've had some conversations around that too, and I think one of the districts actually went to requiring like a clear book bag, and it was met with mixed reactions, I would say, because they're a little bit cheaper and they broke pretty quickly, and parents weren't real happy with that. But it's something that we continue to have conversations about. Is this something that we need to implement? There are safety considerations there, obviously, that we would need to have more conversation with. And that's the nice thing, having our connections with, especially the Mentor Police Department. They give us a lot of feedback. School resource officer training. They do a lot of conversation around all aspects of school safety, and book bags is one of those things that they continuously get some training on too. So. I don't think we're there yet, but always one of the pieces of conversation that we're having with our SRO. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know who's in charge of the traffic flow plans for pickup and drop off at each of the schools?
we were just having that conversation earlier too, because Trisha's like, who should I send these plans to? And it's kind of maybe a 3 or 4 headed monster right now. Depending on the building, obviously the principal would be involved. So very easily, if you have ideas or suggestions, you can contact the principals. The other people that typically are part of that conversation are Mr. Hammond, our assistant superintendent, and then Mr. Kolar, who's our director of operations, and he actually goes out, if we're talking about, restriping a parking lot, for example, he's going to be the one that's going to have to do it. So he'll be out. I jumped in on one of the conversations last year when we were dealing with Orchard Hollow, and Mr. Hammond, Mr. Kolar, and I were walking around in the parking lot with like tape measures and stuff and trying to figure out how many cars we could fit in different areas. So typically it's going to be 2 or 3 of us at the district level along with that building principal. Go ahead.
Do you have any like collaborative opportunities with like the city because they plan traffic all the time?
So I was just going to say the other part to that, especially when we were dealing with Orchard Hollow, because we were having a lot of backups over on Hendricks. The Mentor Police Department came over and helped us out with some of that too, and they did some measuring as well. What it ended up doing is we flip-flopped our buses over there and had them dropping off closer to the building. And we were actually talking about like pulling them around and then having a sidewalk connecting all the way around. So again, we didn't have to cross traffic. So there are a couple different options that we were looking at there, but Mentor Police was part of that conversation. We haven't got into collaboration with the city themselves in their traffic work. It's been mostly with the police officers themselves, but it might be another group that we can talk to. Yes, ma'am.
Talk about all the schools except for Memorial, and that's where my son is. A month ago, I had to drop off migraine medicine for his refills. I parked in the front, and it was near dismissal time.
Yeah.
I walked in the first set of doors, and I did report this to the principal. I walked into the next set of doors that put me into the school. No one stopped me.
Interesting.
I walked, and you know where the nurse's clinic is? When
Yeah.
you walk in the front door.
Yeah.
Door 1, I think it is.
Yep.
Door 2 is where Open Hawk can sit. So I walked all the way down a hall. A teacher was eating an apple. I saw the band teacher because it was dismissal time. All the way down to the nurse's clinic for the nurse to say, "Oh my God, I didn't know you were here." Now I did stop at the second set of doors, which are locked per se, and hit the buzzer like 4 times. Fortunately, my job, that is the only time I could get there to drop off his refills. And I had called and said I was coming that day so that the nurse knew to be ready for me to sign my medicine off with them. Everybody was very shocked when I walked into the nurse's clinic and said, "Hi, I just walked through your school." Granted, I did work in one of the schools for a short time, so a lot of the students I know, and they were all, "Hey, Miss Beck, how you doing, Miss Beck? Hi, Barrett's mom, hi, Miss Beck." And I just looked at the nurse like, "Are you kidding me?" And then I followed up with an email the next day to I can never remember her name, our principal there, because I deal with Stokes at my And she was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "That's a problem.
Yeah.
A couple hundred kids in the atrium getting on buses. One of them was my student. I told him to take the bus regardless. And I said, I just walked through your school, and
So
nobody stopped. I don't look like a middle schooler."
it was that second set of doors that was open then. Okay.
And then she's like, "There's supposed to be 2 people out there." I'm like, 2 people to 200 students. I mean, I'm right here. I'm 50 years old. I don't blend in that well. And this is pretty much how I presented myself. I walked in. I don't look like one of these students. And if somebody would have stopped me, I mean, I had the bag in my hand. I would have been like, "Oh, I'm just trying to get to the clinic. You know, here's the medicine. I'm Barrett's mom, blah, blah, blah." And there's been a couple times now I picked up Barrett, and I'm not seeing much of a change.
Okay.
I don't want to attempt to try it again because I don't want to put somebody on the spot.
But that's that front entrance then.
Yeah, I think it's door 1 it's called, because door 2 is down by the nurse's That shouldn't happen. I mean, because anybody, that's a couple hundred kids right there.
Are they usually locked?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've gone during like at 1 o'clock, and I have to sit there and bring the buzzer, the lady comes on. But with all those students trying to get out to the 6 buses that are waiting out there, those doors, I mean, the student held the door for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's okay, because you know what? How did they know that A, I wasn't a sub, or, because, I mean, I see teachers dressed leisurely, and there's no problem, not complaining. But what I'm saying is, I blended in with my purse across my shoulder. We're talking about book bags, but here I just entered a school.
Okay.
And that's just, if we need volunteers, or if we need more safety, I love having more officers in the school. I think it's really safe, I want that there. But that right there could have been, I could have been crazy person. You know, it happens. We all sit here and go, oh my gosh.
Okay.
It happens. And I, like I said, I did immediately went home that night. I immediately reported to the nurse. I immediately emailed. They called and said, oh my God, we will work on this, blah, blah, blah. But didn't.
I'll talk to Mrs. Blackburn again. Thanks for sharing that.
She said there's two people in the atrium, as she explained to me.
2 people in the atrium, and then they've got like 2 or 3 outside, don't they? Yeah.
Our kids at least getting on 6 buses, and I just, nobody stopped me. I mean, like I said, a student was like courteous and held the door, which we want them to hold the doors, but not, but hey, it wasn't a student I knew. And like I said, there was a teacher, when I turned left, the second classroom right past where like we go for, band and all that. There was a teacher standing there watching the hall, and he was eating the apple. And I looked at him, just to see. Like, are you going to say, hey,
Can I help you?
you know? And then the nurse almost like, put your hands when I walked in. She was like, how did you get straight? I said, I rang the buzzer, doors were open. That's the problem.
May I ask one question? With that being, are there usually 2 teachers out there at least?
There's supposed to be, there's 100 kids. I can't tell the difference. Who's got the teacher?
And you wait until you get to 40. You're not
You're going to wear the size 11 shoe. It's almost as tall as I am. I don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? They didn't, if I would have been kind of visible enough.
But the point was there was no adult.
Hi, I'm here to drop off meds. Can I go in? Like, do you need something from me?
Yeah.
So,
But again, it's a good reminder that we need to constantly review those protocols with our teaching staff as well. And again, I think typically that's a beginning of the year, hey, remember this is how this all works. And again, over time, human nature, things kind of die off a little bit. Thus, the reason for that sign, because that's what we were dealing with a couple of years ago. Yeah. And that's the whole reason behind it. Yep.
I would not have forced, I would have grabbed that door.
Yeah.
If they would have pulled the door closer to that sign, I would have continued to sit on that buzzer. And I sat there on the buzzer.
Yeah. And again, that's not even just at our main entrances either. It's those student exits, especially at the high school, that we need to make sure we reiterate some of that too. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Moving on, a couple of things, and I'll try and cruise through. Yeah, we're 7:04 already. Getting into some of our student behavior pieces to the puzzle. Again, to kind of set the stage with this, back in January, we started having some conversations around bullying and mean behaviors in the district. And a couple of things that came out of that is, number one, we have an ad hoc committee that Mrs. Marchaza had recommended that is being formed, has met once. There's a lot of other work that's already been done, which I'll be sharing with the board here in my board update tomorrow. But we will be continuing with a lot of this work, and some of it kind of ties into the questions that have been asked. So a couple of things that we want to clarify first and foremost, and that is, what is the difference between bullying and mean behavior? We get the question all the time, and again, this is in every single school district around the entire state. There is a very, very high threshold for what constitutes bullying versus what is mean behavior. what you'll see as far as the bullying data on the website looks like it's very, very little. Like I think we have 4 so far this school year. However, when we start looking at the mean behavior pieces to the puzzle, which I'll show you some data in a second, you'll see that that's something that we're continuing to track as well. And that's what we're trying to report now as we have that on our website moving forward, so that you see the bullying pieces, but it's a lot of the other mean behaviors that we're dealing with on a daily basis that, people will automatically say, well, that's bullying. Well, again, to the state definition, it's not, so that's why it's not showing up in the data. But again, just a couple of things. This is bullying from the state perspective. It's something that is intentional, written, verbal, graphic, or physical act that a student or a group of students exhibited towards another particular student more than once, and the behavior both causes mental or physical harm to the other student and is sufficiently severe, persistent, and pervasive that it creates an intimidating, threatening, or abusive educational environment for the other student, including violence within a dating relationship. So there's a lot to that definition, and that's why there are so few reported, because it really has to meet all of those criteria to be defined as bullying. We'll talk about this a little bit more here in a second too, but these behaviors may also occur by an act of electronic means, which I think is where we're seeing it more so than anything else. So the other thing that we're really focused in on now is, what is mean behavior? So when we're looking at our code of conduct and when we're actually pulling out some of the numbers that we're looking at here, there are major and minor incident reports, and those things that we have listed there: fighting, physical injury, threats, harassment, disrespect, disruption, defiance, and we actually have a category now for mean behavior that might not fit into one of those other categories. All of those things are pulled out now when we're looking at what the mean behaviors are in our building. You can have a fight, a knockdown, drag-out fight that isn't constituting bullying because it's happening one time. So that's a big difference there. So that's why you'll see a lot more fights recorded as opposed to bullying incidents recorded. So those are the differences, and it's very important that we understand that distinction just from a data and a communication standpoint, because a lot of people talk about bullying, and there is a big difference between what mean behavior and bullying is.
So if that, say, my child is been bullied multiple times, they don't go to the administration because they don't trust them to not make the situation worse.
Right.
So then it's one of those, I think we have a lot less that is these chronic things because they don't trust to say, if I go tell the assistant principal, they're gonna go talk to my bully. The bully knows exactly who outed them, and then it makes them worse, so they don't go. So it's one of those that they don't. It's underreported, so that now we don't even have this has happened a bunch of times because the kids aren't gonna tell you.
Right.
They don't trust you.
And that's the issue that we run into, and that's what we have to get resolved somehow. We have to figure out ways for students to be able to go to a trusted adult, know that they're going to handle it appropriately, and help that situation. We've had a lot of conversations, and I'll mention this in one of the action steps right now, but we've had some conversations with it's been our high school students so far. We're going to jump into our middle schools here fairly soon. And that's one of the things that they've continued to mention too. They're like, yeah, we don't want to say anything to anyone because it's just going to make it worse. And we have to figure out a way to not make it worse. And that's the trouble that we always find ourselves in. And again, then you go back to that definition of bullying. Okay, is it repeated, pervasive, severe enough that we can then constitute that as bullying? And in those situations, it probably is.
Hey, this has been happening enough times. Like, does it have to be documented every time by a school administration, or it could be, hey, this happened to my kid a bunch of times?
Yeah, and we can take that information in as well. Technically, we're still bound by what the state definition is, so we would have to have that documented over time, and that's the hard part for us too. And again, that's why you see basically an underreporting of bullying situations.
Right, but I even pulled the middle school paperwork. There is not an option for the kids to say, this person is bothering me during this time, please watch me. I don't want to have a discussion with you, I don't want you to talk to them. I want the teacher to be the one to see it, to have a form that says, please watch me during this class because this guy's being a jerk.
Yep. And it's interesting because we actually had that come up in one of our student conversations already too. You know, is there a way to report that in a different way so that that can be viewed? And that's something that I think will be a good action step coming out of this. Yep. Yes, sir.
About the reporting, the previous slide, while everything that meets the criteria, does it have to state, like, does reporting it, is it the law to, like, report everything that, when something gets reported to you / administration, does it have to be, like, is it the law to do that?
That we have to report the bullying situation?
While making sure everything in documented incidents from physical, etc., meeting that criteria, is that the law?
Yeah, so we have to report that to the state twice a year, actually, so it's each semester. So we've got forms that come from each of the buildings, and it goes through all that set of criteria so that we can actually document, yes, we've investigated this as a bullying situation, yes, it meets that criteria, and we get that reported then to the state. So that's part of that requirement that we have as a public school district.
That reporting is anonymous though, right? Like,
Correct.
you're not reporting to the state like Trisha's secret. It's
No, it's just numbers, just numbers. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to explain at all, and maybe this would help for some folks, like how you handle bullying versus these other behaviors, and are they treated as seriously? And you know,
Yeah.
I think both are handled seriously. Then I don't care what we'll call it, right? Behavior should be addressed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and we'll show you a couple of pieces with that here in just a second too, so that you can see, you know, the numbers of situations that we're dealing with and then the types of consequences that we have. One of the things that I know a lot of people are wanting to come out of this is like a discipline matrix. Like if this happens, this is what's going to happen to the kid. Which, yeah, but there's also some gray area in there too, that you have to have some discretion based on what the entire situation is. That's why it's almost a case-by-case basis as we're going through. But yeah, we'll address that. If when we get to that point, if I'm not answering the question specifically, make sure you bring that back up here too.
Having some of these high school kids, a lot of good kids in our district, a lot. Having a small group of our high school kids become mentors.
Yeah.
And go speak to them in the school. Each grade, I'm telling you, third grader and even eighth graders are getting hands, you know. I mean, I think these kids, they don't talk about what's outside. We don't come to business.
It's interesting you say, like you guys are talking like the students did the other day when we were actually having these meetings. That was something that they brought up as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And part of the idea around that too was, can you get student groups that are similar? Like, can you get the football players to go down and talk to the football players at the middle school level? Can you get the band kids to go down and talk to the band kids? So that there's that connecting point already, because when they get up to that high school level, then they've got a connection with an upperclassman that, hey, I remember you came and talked to us, and they know that, okay, here's a trusted peer that I can go to as well. So there are some different ideas that we're trying to tie together here with some of that too. Yeah, we'll show you a couple of those here. Let me see if I can get to that slide real quick. And then go back. It's going to be very difficult to see, but on the left-hand side of this is that middle school discipline guidelines piece that we're looking at. And what this does is this spells things out for the teachers, where if the student's coming to them, they know how they're supposed to respond. If the student's going to a counselor or an administrator, automatically they're going to know what that response is. But that left-hand side helps the teachers a little bit. The one on the right-hand side, this kind of gets into some of what we've been talking about too, about the discipline matrix. We have guidelines that we have in place. You know, if we've got a situation going on with disruption of school, it's a first offense, this is what we do. Second offense, this is what we do. Third offense, fourth offense. Again, those are guides. We don't want to have that as the hard, fast thing, because when we talk a little bit about some of the student conversations that we've had with our principals, you'll see that there are some different situations that we have to deal with as well that might cause us not to move through that progression quite as quickly, might not have us jump to a certain type of discipline right away because of the student or because of the situation that was going on. That's why discipline is such a gray area. Yeah. Typically, they can go straight to the principal in those situations, especially if you're suspecting a bullying type of situation going on. The principal is always going to be your first point of contact. You know, if you're dealing at an elementary level, if there's something going on specifically within the classroom, you can talk to the teacher first, because they're obviously going to be in that classroom every day to kind of help with that. But if there's something that's more pervasive than that, going straight to the principal is going to be the best bet for that. And one of the other things that we had coming out of those student conversations as well is the students wanted maybe a little bit more understanding of who can they go to as well, because some of them, especially our freshmen at the high school level, when we had the conversation with them, they weren't sure, being first year in that building, okay, who do I go to? Do I go to my unit principal? Do I go to the counselor? Do I go to the assistant principal? Do I go to the principal of the building? Who do I talk to? So trying to make that a little bit more clear, I think, for our students is going to be an important thing for us. Yeah. Well, and again, that goes to what we were talking about too, because they were asking, how can we report this in a different way? And that may be one of the things that comes out of this, because we did bring that up. Yeah. So there are a couple different things that we already have in place. One is Securely. It's just kind of the monitoring software. It's looking at some of the stuff that goes through our student email accounts. And if there's something that is kind of a red flag, they'll jump on that and bring that student down and have a conversation, especially if it's dealing with something like, a bullying situation or a depression type of situation, or maybe they were looking up something online that was the kind of a red flag there. They'll have the conversation with them to kind of get to that point too. The other thing that we do have available to us, it's called the Safer Tip Hotline. That is right on the website as well. That's more of a statewide thing, where if something gets reported there, the people at the Safer Tip Hotline will call us here in the district, and then we'll get a hold of the principal that relates to and say, hey, we just got a tip on this. Can you jump in and investigate that? That's helped us considerably with a couple of pretty major issues that we've had already this year. There was one situation, we got a phone call pretty late at night, and worked on that until about 1:30 in the morning with the principal, with the Mentor Police Department, and had police officers going to families' houses to resolve some things. So those things are happening 24 hours a day as well. So we get a lot of phone calls about that at night too. But I think the one thing that we're looking at instituting is there may be like just a Google form that they can click on that will link right into something here within our own network that we can get immediate responses to. Or again, have, to your point, talking about, hey, I'm in this class, and can you have the teacher look out for this situation going on? Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I don't think we have identified people to report bullying to as far as a child or a parent. Any adult in that school should be able to funnel it to the appropriate person.
And that's why we've got those things spelled out for our teachers to make sure that they know. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's part of what we train each of our adults in our buildings to do. There are some things that are a little bit more complicated. That's why we put that matrix together for our, that one was specific to our middle school teaching staff and support staff. But yeah, every adult in that building should know who to go to if a student comes to them with some sort of concern. Back here. Yeah. 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 And unfortunately, we've got some history here, and some very tragic history as well. And I think that's why we're all here today too, is to try and figure out how do we move beyond this now? How do we make this a place where we can all be proud of, and also make sure that every single student is going to be safe, has that connection to a building, has that connection to an individual in the building that they know that they can go to for the support that they need. And we have a lot of things in place already. Are there things that we can do better? Yeah, and I think that's what we're learning as we're going through this exercise now of really jumping in and studying what it is that we're dealing with. But I think the biggest group that we need to pay attention to is our students. They're living that experience on a daily basis. And again, that's one of the things that when we had these student advisory meetings, we kept it very open-ended. We asked them 2 questions. What's your experience right now? And what can we do as adults to change things? This is just a small sampling of some of what was said. And again, this is just the high school students right now, so it's going to be really interesting when we start having conversations, especially at the middle school level, what it is that they're saying. What the high school students shared with us is they see a lot of verbal altercations. With our data, our fights are down across the board here this year, which is a good sign. So the physical piece might not be quite as prevalent as it has been, maybe coming right out of COVID in particular. And it's funny that the freshmen said that they don't see the mean behavior quite as much as they did when they were in middle school. And then the sophomores said that they don't see the mean behavior quite as much as they did when they were freshmen. And the juniors said they don't see the mean behavior quite as much as they did when they were sophomores. So, and the one thing that was consistent all the way through is, as those students are growing through high school and they're getting into some of those more rigorous courses, number one, those courses that have particular interest to them, might be tied to a career pathway now, which is a huge thing that we're pushing at the high school level. They have these smaller groups of people that they start to interact with, and a lot of the bullying or the mean behavior that they experienced in those smaller hallways of our middle schools, when we were sectioned off by 6th grade is here, 7th grade is here, 8th grade is here, and you're seeing those same kids over and over and over again. Even if you're on different teams, you're still interacting a lot. They don't see that when they get to the high school. What they do say they see a lot of is a lot of comments on social media and things that might not be taking place in the school buildings themselves, but somehow end up infiltrating what's going on with some comments that are being made in hallways then at school. So once something is set out there in social media and that starts coming back in, and then we've got the issue that we're dealing with here at the building level, and we become the social media police, you know, it's a very challenging thing. They said that's probably the most prevalent thing. A couple of the things that they've shared there that to help things change, the one thing they keep pointing to, and yeah, you gotta love our young people because they get it. And they said the number one thing is mental health supports. You know, even while maybe some of that is, you know, trying to be taken away from us in the public school setting, that's one of the things that the students are saying they need. So how do we provide those supports in collaboration with the parents, in collaboration with the families, so that those students are getting that support that they need to not only flourish in our high school, in our middle school, in our elementary schools, but once they get done with us, how do they continue to take those skills forward? And that's something that I think we really need to take a close look at. The one thing that they talked a lot about too was the consequence piece to the puzzle. I know we brought up in-school suspensions or in-school restrictions, excuse me, at the board table, and that was one thing to take a look at. They said, yeah, it's much worse to have to come to school and be in one location the entire day versus getting an out-of-school suspension where they can basically have a little vacation time. So that's something, trying to balance that out, where, okay, we're trying to hammer these kids for their behavior. Well, oftentimes that's what they want. They just want to go home. So how do you balance that out? So those are some things that we're looking at. And then, you know, the conflict mediation piece, again, finding that trusted adult who can sit down with students, have the conversations with them, and figure out ways to move beyond what that mean behavior is. I think it'll be the most important thing that we need to develop here coming out of this exercise. Bridget?
Thank you. Can you go back to the definition of bullying, please? So, what is the chance that it's being interpreted wrong? Like, who determines how sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive something is, or how? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Or what constitutes that? Is it set forth by the state, and is it like the school just interpreting it, and maybe it can be interpreted differently? And then, hold on one second, those matrices, are those online? Can we find them somewhere?
I don't know if they're online or not. I will double check and see. I know we've got our code of conduct that has to be posted online. I don't know if the matrices are there or not, because those are more like internal tools that are used by our teachers and principals, but I can double check that. I don't know that for a fact.
I noticed at the bottom, under the little tiny asterisk, it says it's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
Who decides who's interpreting this? Because I can tell you I And
Yeah, so
that's part of the problem.
again, that's part of the artistic part of school administration. Obviously there's a lot of discretion. And you really have to take a close look at the student and the entire situation to figure out, okay, where are we within this matrix? Where are we within, what supports need to be done for this particular student? Even getting into the definition of bullying, obviously we've got some things from the state that we have to go through and follow. We have forms that each of the building fill out, and they have to go through step by step to identify, okay, is this a bullying situation with this investigation or is it not?
Are they the ones that decide how, the people within the school building that decide how severe and persistent it is?
Yes.
So is it the vice principal, the school counselors, who decides these things?
Typically, it's going to be the final say will be the school principal, but typically the person that's going to be investigating it will be a big part of that decision.
So if the person is not involved in the process at all, how does he get to make that determination?
Based on the recommendation from his assistants. Yes, sir.
So these bullies aren't clocking in at 7 and clocking out at 3:30.
No.
Like, this is happening, like, we spend less than a third of our time at school, right? So, are the schools mainly a mediator in this? Having the parents come together? Because this is 2/3 of this is happening outside of school.
Yeah.
Less than a third of it's happening in school.
Yeah. Again, another challenge point for us. Sometimes things, get wrapped into school discipline issues, and we're dealing with the students. We're calling parents as well. Again, I think I may have said this at a couple of different board meetings now, and this isn't just a school problem, this is a community problem. And how do we resolve this as a community? I know there's another meeting that's going to be going on this weekend to try and brainstorm some ideas too. And again, that's what we're trying to do right now, is come up with what those pieces are going to be. One of the other things, because we had talked about how do we structure this particular Cardinal Café, because some of them we've been just sitting around a table having some question and answer, almost like what we're doing now, actually. And there have been others where it's been more of a presentation. I think one of the other items that we want to do is maybe do more of a community forum type of activity where we can ask a couple of those questions that we've asked of our students. Okay, what are your experiences, number one? Okay, now, what do we do, number two? So that we can brainstorm as many different ideas. Let's kind of surface to the top those best practices and figure out what we can implement so that we can start to resolve these issues here as a community, not just as a school district. Yeah. Yeah.
You see all the social media, hey, it's there, we all see it. You don't just hear it from your kids. There's 30 of us here. We need to, this room should be overflowing. You should have that open for other audience. I mean, I don't understand what we can do to bring more people forward, not just to complain. We have to come here with ideas. And we have to go to our board meetings with ideas. Like I said in the board meeting, you guide us, we guide you. And how can we do this?
Yeah.
Because 30 of us, no offense to everybody here, we're all doing it. A lot of us, I'm sure most of us have students in the district or a branch out or something. 30 of us can't do it. What can we do to bring in, the next time we talk about this, probably next month, next year, how can we fill this room?
Yeah.
We need people to, because that meeting that's coming up on the 30th, I guarantee you they pack that restaurant. Why can't they be here tonight? You can't tell me it's a Thursday night, because I'm telling you right now, both my kids are home with their dad, get showers and go to bed. Why can't we all be here?
Yeah.
Where are you?
And the thing is, we tried, I posted on that post,
I posted it.
and I said, why don't you come to me with the superintendent? That's where you should be instead of at a restaurant.
I'm here.
Where are they?
Right here.
Okay, I think that really good.
Right, we're here, but
Bridget.
we should
And again, it's got to be a starting point somewhere. And that's why I appreciate everybody being here tonight, because this is the starting point. You know, when we do our next step and we do have more of a community forum where we're, again, opening it up, get people sitting around tables, very similar to what we did with our strategic planning process. How do we do this together?
Can I just add one thing? Thank you, it's Angela, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I just want to say, like, as a member of the ad hoc committee, like, it is absolutely priority for me. As you said, it's not the beginning. We started on this, a couple months ago. Clearly, he's been doing some work too. We're going to get together more students, more parents. This is going to be a sustained effort, and I'm going to be there driving it forward. So thank you. And I hope to see more students.
There's a book. I listen to an audiobook. There's a book called The Anxious Generation. I would recommend it because the guy talks about phones and kids as they get older, and he recommends that kids shouldn't have phones until they're 16. And one of the things he said was, if I say to my kid, you're not allowed to have a phone, and then you say to your kid, you're not allowed to have a phone, we almost build up like a little community saying, we got to convince other people, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to let your kid get on Instagram at 13. Maybe, so you kind of like start there. But also when I was in high school, we did DARE. That was the thing against drugs. Like maybe there should be a program for like kids online. Like when you're online, maybe you shouldn't post things that could come across this way. Like I don't want to say there should be like social media training, but like that's one way of doing it. They're almost like you teach like an etiquette class, like, hey, maybe don't post this online. Maybe don't take these pictures online. Like, I hate saying that. Like, maybe that's not the responsibility of the parents, but maybe it's something that should be in the school a little bit too.
And we have things that we do within our classrooms around digital citizenship. So, again, what's your digital footprint look like, and what are you posting? What should you post? What should you not post? As you're getting online, what's a valid source versus what is not a valid source? Those are things that we're teaching. Yeah.
High school. If I did, I probably would have done a lot of stupid things. So it's like you almost need to teach that etiquette early, almost like you would teach a kid like how not to fight somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
One thing we have to remember is kids are inherently nasty. They pick on each other, they won't stop nagging at each other, and that's just the way it goes. But as parents, this needs to be a partnership between the community of parents and the community of parents and the school. Because it's not going to get done on one side or another. And what we need to start doing is, we actually have to start training our parents. Because when you go to the parents and you say, Bobby did this or Susie did this, the parent will look, not my Bobby, not my Susie, and they argue it. And that is the problem. And you can even tell them it's caught on camera. And they're going to deny it until the end of it. My child doesn't do that because they're not involved with their children. They have too much going on. They have to work. They have to make ends meet. They have to put a roof over their heads. And the problem is trying to get the parents. Now, you guys are a group of very concerned parents. I'm a kid that was bullied all through school. And so one of the things that I do is try to help the situations. But the parents need to work with the parents as well as with the school to try to stop this, even if it means between classes. If the teachers just go and stand at the door as the kids are going down the hall, that would be a huge deterrent, if they knew they were being watched.
Yeah,
all
but
the
then
time.
they do it in the classroom while they're outside.
Exactly, or
I feel like
outside.
it's
So
one of those,
this is where the parents have to start banding together. And when things like this start happening outside, on social media, I mean, it's been seen. People are sitting there saying, you need to kill yourself. I mean, I've seen it multiple times, and I'm like, holy guacamole, I can't believe this is coming out of our children's mouths. But it is. So what we need to do as parents is to then turn around, and when things like this happen and you see things, My thought to you is, my son got in trouble once. He beat up a kid for a very good reason, because the kid was picking on his sister, and mercilessly picking on his sister. And he beat him up, and he hurt him, didn't hurt him terribly, but did hurt him. I called the cops on my own kid. They took him away. And I said, hold him for about an hour. I'll see you in about a little over an hour. And I just let them hold him. And I let them act like they were, fingerprinting him and doing everything. He was 11 at the time. I'm a horrible parent, because I hold my kid accountable. You see something like this going on, if it's outside of school, instead of calling the school and saying, Johnny's picking on Jamie, you turn around and you call the cops and you say, this is what's going on, because that type of behavior is becoming less and less tolerated. So it's gotta be between everybody. It can't just be the parents or the
The
school.
only thing with that is, it's not the kids and the parents, it's the kids and the algorithm, and the kids and the social media companies, and their incentive to get these kids online and get them,
Yeah.
to send these things. So it's like, when you're the parent, you're up against a lot,
But that's where the parents need to stand their ground and start parenting.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem. They need to start parenting, And they don't have time, but they gotta figure it out. I never had time. I worked 2 jobs. I figured it out.
Before you speak, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. Yes, you. Thank you.
You may not be happy after this. Okay, I disagree with you, with all due respect.
You're allowed.
Most kids are not awful.
No.
27-year retired school secretary from Euclid.
There you go.
Okay, so here comes Euclid. Ain't nobody got time for this shit. So I am one of your nightmare, one of your awful history.
What is
My
that?
one question is, do you have
Can you
buy-in?
explain that, please?
What are you holding up?
Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about.
My son's photo.
I'm sorry?
My son's photo.
At the piano?
Yes, at the piano. Here's a better one. Born 1990, died March 29th, 2007. There were 5 in 2 school years, a year and a half, 2006-07 and 07-08. My one question is, do you have buy-in from your staff? Because this young man, who was raised without violence, was told, Eric, you're a loser, you're a faggot, you're a queer, you're a waste of human skin. On the 150th day of his math class, he only had 1 class in Menor High School. He was told by the star baseball player, why don't you go home and shoot yourself? It's not like anyone would care. So my only question is, do you have buy-in from your staff? Because the math teacher completely ignored it. And I'm sorry,
That's why I said thank you for being here.
I'm very sorry.
This is the reason we're here. Do we have buy-in? Yes, we do. Is there more that we can do? Yes, there is. But I think we're taking the right steps now with what the needs of our students are to make sure that we are providing those supports.
may I give you kudos for having this? Because Jackie Hoynes sat across from me and said, Menor does not have a bullying problem. That's as close as I ever came to going across the table. So kudos to you
Thank you.
for not burying your head in the sand.
we have so much more in this presentation. We'll just post it online because I know we're already well past our time anyway. Just a couple of things that I wanted to share before we're done, because we did create this ad hoc committee. And I want to at least let everybody know some of the steps that have already been taken. Obviously, anybody that knows me knows I love data. I love to look at numbers. And we've spent a lot of time digging into this from a couple of different perspectives. We've looked at it from an individual student perspective, and we've had meetings with every single building principal looking at those students that are number one, have the most incidents in our data collection, what those incidents are, what consequences they got for those incidents, and then we've had some really, really in-depth conversations with each of those principals about what is it that you're doing for them. We've also tried to identify some of the victims because, again, the way our data processing works now is we can go in and identify if they were the offender in that incident, were they the victim in that incident, were they a witness to that incident, so that we know, okay, what role did everybody play in this? So this is allowing us to really dig in a little bit deeper and really truly understand what the crux of the problem is. So we've done a lot of that. We've also done it from a district-wide perspective, looking at our numbers. And again, there's our major and minor mean behavior incidents that I was talking about before. Remember we said, 4, 5, 6 bullying incidents maybe per year? Well, you'll look in 23, 24, we had over, 2,200 minor mean behavior incidents that took place.
What's considered a minor, sir?
So disruption, disrespect, defiance, those sorts of things. A major would be like fighting, harassment, threats. So those, you got that balance there between the two. We actually spent some time over the summer with our secondary principals looking at all of those incident codes as well, just to make sure that we clearly understood what major versus minor means. What do we have the right codes in place? Do we need to add some more things? And we've updated our coding a little bit here for this year. And then we also took a look at our discipline matrix at that point as well and started to identify, okay, are there some things that we need to ramp up a little bit more here for this coming school year? And we have. And you can see this year, although we're not completely done with the school year yet, we are down considerably from where we were last year. Again, 2,200 potentially minor incidents last year. We're at, maybe about 1,400 right now here at the end of March.
I'd like to thank you because you really did address a lot of answers to the questions I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, I would like to speak for a second.
Sure.
Okay, I come from a military family. My father was Navy and at Pearl Harbor. My oldest son is a colonel, graduated from War College less than 2 years ago. With that being said, and the reason I'm saying that is, I'm a God-worthy person, and I'm here basically because I've been drawn to this. Okay, I'm a woman advocate. I have done fundraising. I've done it basically just as a hobby. This is who I am. So I've basically been drawn here. And I also had a cook that I was training at my workplace that was very obviously presented to me. Okay? And with that being said, I was training her. Great worker, smart, learns fast. I'm like, you are assistant manager. I'm a soup chef, but I moved up down the side. Bottom line is, as I watched her within 2 months just fade away, and I finally grabbed her and said, you need to tell me what the problem is. I had the greatest perspective. Trying to shorten the story, her son was bullied from junior high in Mentor, 2 grades, and then into high school. So what I did is I went on a mission. I had conversations with families, whether the church, whether outside the church. It was amazing to me because I found the inconsistency that was going on with Crossroads. And again, it was a trial thing. I'm sure you tried. Okay. With that being said, let's just say I'll go by, if you guys remember, way back, because I'm old. It's Tom and Dick and Sally book, okay? So let's just say here's Tom. Tom's the one that comes from a problem home. And again, I was abused, and it was mental, okay? And so was my husband. So that's why we changed the circle of life in our own home. Okay, and that's where it has to start. But then you have these broken homes, and I coached baseball for these so-called broken children. And guess what? They became lawyers and doctors, and 5 of them I talked to were teachers at my ex-husband's celebration of life. And that just moved me because you know what I said to them? Talk to me about the bullying situation. Not only here, but within the nation. And they flew to celebrate my ex-husband because they honored him. Okay, and again, a lot of them said, you know, I'm so glad I'm going to retire. I can't take this anymore. Okay, bringing it back to what I was originally talking to. Okay, so you have Tom here, who comes from a broken home. Okay? Obviously, his parents were abused, or one of them, because obviously it's a very broken home, and they're arguing and they're fighting. So therefore, Tom is angry too, because his father or mother is also beating on him. It's very common stage, a frame of what happens in life. So here is Dick. He wants to be his friend. He loses all his friends because of that. Nobody wants to be near him, which isolates him. And you're wondering why he's failing in class, because he doesn't even want to be there anymore. Okay? I don't know, I'm probably don't want to repeat the story. And the fear is coming out of the classroom where he's going to get beat up again. And where's it going to happen? And where are the cameras watching him? Okay, so this is what I formed as a plan. I went with what my father taught me, and that is the chain of command. And when I saw that the chain of command here was broken, and again, I'm not trying to disrespect, it's a format and a plan that you have to follow through on. So therefore, I went to the military. And I went through 3 different posts. It was rather funny because theater was hard of hearing. He was 90 years old. He said he was half dead. So you might want to go to the young ones. So I went to the young ones. And boy, what good advice I got. Because my commander's son and I discussed the fact, when they had the Chardon shootings, I said, why don't they have retired vets? They're trained in basic training. They're trained for discipline. They're trained in disengaged arguments. They are in offhands. Okay, do not touch rules. And they are trained to do that. My son was in Iraq 3 times. He was at the capital of Saddam. My youngest had 2 tours in Afghanistan, and then South Korea, and the last one was Poland on the cusp of Ukraine. I was just a vessel. Do you understand that? Okay? My body rejects medication. Okay, I'm sorry, I have a sense of humor. My daughter got her doctorate. You know, I've been blessed, but we taught them discipline. So this is where it's all falling to the wayside. I don't have to tell you, you know that. So why not format having, I talked to the commander, so now he's sending me to, I couldn't do it all in 1 week, because I just went back to work after having my knee surgery. But I'm planning on meeting with the auxiliary, okay? Again, these women are trained. They're trained to deal with the same thing that the men are. Except maybe they have a little bit more compassion. No offense, guys, okay? But they do. They have a little bit more compassion. And the fact is, they can formulate a plan. They can have classes here. They can train mentors. When I get a no, I get 3 yeses. Ask my son with the last fundraiser I did. $2,000 within 2 hours. In 1996, I said, why don't they have school dances? And he says, because we can't afford the trouble, alcohol, blah, blah, blah. I said, I challenge you. I did challenge, and guess what? And my brother, who did Jerry Lewis Carroll telethons with all the music you can imagine, volunteer. We had pizza and pop. We sold over 3,000 tickets, Willoughby's house. You could go and check on it.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry, I don't wanna cut you short.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's
Okay,
okay.
I'm just trying to make a point.
Why don't
Right,
you and I
about
connect,
that.
cause
Yes.
my role, like, I connect to
No, I do.
connect with
I hear you.
So let's
But
do
the
it
point
right
is,
now.
I did have the dance, and I raised $2,000. So, again, this is what I'm addressing.
Cool. Just to wrap things up then, we'll make sure we post the slides online too. I know there were several questions that were asked. We did provide some answers in there. We will have some more follow-up steps here, whether those are in the next month or two or the beginning of next school year, to make sure that we continue these conversations and come up with more ideas to pull together so that we can, again, as a community, solve this issue. I do appreciate all the comments and all the questions and all the ideas here tonight. I've got a couple of things written down. I know we've captured a lot on camera as well that we'll be able to refer to. Again, that last slide that I tossed up there that we've got the answer to right now, those are some of the things that we've already done within the ad hoc committee. We're going to do a lot more here as we move forward. Again, I do appreciate everybody being here tonight. I will stick around if people need to ask some additional questions. But again, thank you so much for being here tonight.